Alright, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit record while I'm ready for this reading. There's a little bit of resistance on it. I really don't know why. It's just some random video that I was gonna shoot. The other day I was watching something on YouTube and I was like scrolling through and I saw this video what was going on at Burning Man with the at first it was the dust storm, I think, and then it was the rain. And I mean, we've heard of this before, in previous years, whatever, stuff going on over there. But sometimes I see things like weather things and just things like that, and I see I watched the video and I watched the video about the rain and I said out loud, "Whoop, looks like God canceled Burning Man." So I thought to myself, that's an interesting concept because I'd never really thought of God canceling anything. So then I thought, you know what, I want to pull cards on that, kind of see what's going on. Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, okay, that's happening. And then I saw the next thing. But, sometimes when I look at things, I can see, like, the intention behind them. If there was an intention, let's say, from God, which I don't 100% believe, but we'll get to that. We'll pull cards while we're talking about it. A lot of times I can see intention, and even with like a storm that's just a storm, sometimes I can see intention behind that storm. It's almost like that storm has like an intelligence. And I think anybody who chases, tornadoes might agree with me on that. Sometimes they just seem to have a mind of their own. But sometimes it just looks like weather to me, right? So sometimes I feel like to a certain extent I, can identify what could potentially be an act of God. This card won't get out of my hand, so we're just going to put it up there. I don't really care about Burning Man. I kind of more care about like what God's doing. So I will tell you that I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't take my family there. I wouldn't take my best friend there. I'm a little biased. I stopped going to huge gatherings like that a long time ago. As an empath, I pick up everybody's stuff. So, sadly, I stopped going to Knott's Halloween Haunt because of all the fear that everyone carries around with them at those places. Place like that, Burning Man with that many people, I don't even care to protect myself from that. I'm just not going. But that's just speaking from an energetic point of view of like what you're faced with when you're there as far as like people's emotions. That's not even counting, in that many people, what are the odds? In that many people, what are the odds of having a serial killer present, of having a, sorry, because I've never burped during a reading. I know that it's like part of a release, like when you're tapping into energy, it's a release for you, but that's never happened. And it's funny because that happened as my thought was trying to get cut off. Let me see if I can find it again. Yeah, that's weird. Like, I almost want to stop it and back it up. Like I said, there's some resistance on this, which is just weird. Because, like I said, I could care less about Burning Man, I'm just more curious if there is some kind of divine meddling in it. Because sometimes I do feel like God gives us a warning. Like, don't go in there. Don't do that. Don't go there. Don't... It's funny because I was going to say there's weather, but then I flipped this over and I almost said the sun is out. Don't go there, but, I think that's part of it too, to a certain extent. That's funny because this row was going to be God and then this row down here is going to be, like the actual concept of Burning Man. And then there's going to be a row in the middle that's going to maybe explain what God's relation to it. Typically, I will tell you that I feel like God's relationship to it is like a non-relation. I don't look at God as an entity that wants to affect everybody's life with its will. I look at God as a neutral energy. It's an observer. So whatever we're doing, God is perfectly happy observing us. That's why people get upset when God doesn't intervene. So I don't believe that God cancels anything, although I will say that I do believe that there are forces that, either are God or work under God, are a piece of God, that after a while will get tired of certain things. They'll just get tired of certain things. They'll be like, you haven't learned yet? Last year we did this and we did this and we did this. You guys didn't learn yet? And I'll be honest too, just from a human point of view, when you put on an event like that for that many people, and like the things that are reported about like taking forever to get in, and not having a place to go to the bathroom, or not having a shower, or not having food, or whatever the hell it is that people were complaining about, right? When you put on something like that, you're not doing it for everybody's benefit. You're not doing it so that you can have put on a good time for people. You're ripping people off. You're not doing it out of love, with the idea that you're going to take care of all these people that are going to show up. You're collecting their money, and you're basically saying every man for themselves, and that's exactly what's going on. So I will say the intention behind it already, before you even look at it and decide if there's any kind of like degeneracy going on there, it's already kind of funky in the way that we decided to showcase this, and I get the people, like some of the people who want to go and, they're okay with the diehard idea. They know they're going camping. They know they're going camping in the desert, stuff like that. And I do get that. In college, we talked about, is Burning Man really a religious, experience for some people? And the concept was presented as to, in what way it would be a religious concept for people. And I got that. I totally 100% got that. But for every religious concept that somebody wants to buy into, there's a group of people who say they want to buy into it. So that's where you get into the trouble of saying you're doing something under one guise, and then you're showing it to other people that's why you're doing it. But then they see what you're doing, and then they either think that that's what that looks like, or they see what you're doing and they realize, no, they're not doing it for religious reasons. They're just, they're just going out there for the drugs or whatever, right? So the idea also, I think, if God was to say cancel Burning Man, would be, what are the intentions of the people that are going out there? I just found my thought again. What is the in I think it said like 70,000 people. What are the odds that you're going to have a serial killer present? What are the odds that you're going to have a pedophile present? What are the odds that you're going to have, people who want to do ill will to the people that they're with present? Regardless of the idea of the odds of people who want to do ill will to people that they're not with, that are present, right? Some people are like, you guys are bringing kids, and they're like, well, kids are fine, but it's irresponsible to bring a dog, and other people are pointing this out, and it's like, I do not care to dig into this information to the point where I want to see every single report about it, because a lot of times what ends up happening with me is if I dig too much in a certain type of energy, that energy will start to visit me. So pulling tarot cards for 20 minutes or whatever and dipping in and dipping out of an energy is a hell of a lot easier than spending the night with it. So we're just going to do this, and we're going to... Oh, shit. Oh, wow. And we're going to see what's up. What is this? Cups? Okay. All right. I'm going to pull the rest of the cards. So that Four of Wands in reverse, it's kind of hitting me as not a tradition. So remember, this is supposed to be like God's row, and then this down here is going to be Burning Man, and then this is these cards right here that I'm going to pull back up again are going to be what's in between. So that card right there on the end, this Four of Wands in reverse, this is kind of telling me that oh wow. Well, I was gonna say you're lying. So I meant to like the people who are going what they say they're going for. That card is saying that whatever it was made for, the idea, and I didn't look this up. I purposely didn't research this because I didn't want too much information on it, like what year it started and all that stuff. I just didn't want to do that. But this card is saying that when it started, that the idea behind it and what was presented to people is different than what it is now. And this tower right here in reverse is telling me that people know that. So it's not like it's under wraps, like, oh, we told people that it was this, but we changed it to this, but we told everybody that. This is basically saying that not only did we not tell anybody that, but we're perpetuating the silence around it. So that was the other reason why I didn't want to look up when Burning Man started what the intention was, because I did truly believe that that now, no matter how many years have gone by, that intention has changed. Humans tend to pervert things once they feel like they're working. They'll change it and they'll make it more so that they can benefit from it better. Right? That's what I'm saying. Bringing all those people, but not having a place for them to go, right? Like, we don't really care about that. We just want our money. And I hate to say it, like, there's no judgment. I don't even know who put this thing on. I don't care. I care about people. I think it's pretty clear in this on this channel that all I do is talk about people, taking care of themselves and people taking care of each other and how people treat each other. And I do not believe that this is a way that I would treat like my friends and family. Hey man, want to go to Burning Man with me? In fact, I feel like my initial idea behind this was that this is a place I would take someone that I wanted to do foul play to. Hey man, you want to go to Burning Man with me? Right? And I had another notion too, you're finding bodies or whatever. Those are the ones you're finding. If people show up and then take it with them, less for you to clean up. Like, it's, very irresponsible energy. Let's put it that way. I don't care if you have like security or do you have enough security for all those people? Do you? And then there's this other whole thing of the substances. Now, let's say you don't do substances, but you want to go to Burning Man because you want to have a religious experience, right? Again, in that many people, what are the odds that someone won't slip someone a drug? Then we go into, is it someone they know who they slipped a drug to, or is it someone they don't know? And then we go into, is this an adult or a child? And this is kind of like what we're talking about. Can you keep track of your stuff with that many people? Can you? So this is like the dust storm. It's coming off like a fire. I don't think they had a fire. I feel like when the dust storm happened there was a fire somewhere else. But this is coming off like a fire. So I honestly don't know. This looks like a situation. In other words, this doesn't look like Burning Man 2025 to me. This looks like Burning Man to me. This kind of looks like if there wasn't a fire, there will be 1 year. Something like that, right? I just found out about the orgy den, though. I did enough research to find out about that. And I think maybe that's just what this is. But the thing is again, when you go into a situation like that, everybody's like, well, you don't go in alone. Well, I feel so much safer now, right? I'm going to go into a place with a partner that I'm going to be split from, right? Come on, man. Now, I'm not judging again. People do what they want. But again, I sort of agree with those people that said, okay, well, if you're going to have an orgy den, should you have kids there? Should you have kids there? Hey, man, my kids are grown. And more often than not these days, I think about how grateful I am that I don't have to have certain conversations with them. We didn't have this kind of BS when our kids were growing up. Some of the stuff that people have to talk to their kids about now. They have to get control of their house. You're going to bring them to Burning Man. They're going to see all kinds of shit that you never even knew they saw. right? Just saying. Because even if people aren't, having sex, they might be naked. Let's just put it that way, right? Okay, so again, I just see, breaking from what we said it was in the beginning, and I see perpetuating that in the secret, and I see profiting off of it, figuring out that it works and profiting off of it, but doing it in a way that's obvious to where when the people come in, the people that are paying are suffering. Now, maybe they don't care. Again, this is like, I'm going on an adventure, I want to pay some money, they're going to hand me some camping gear, this is going to be fun. It could be. Like I said, there is no judgment. I don't care. But this Ten of Wands is telling me that I think it's just going to get harder and harder to stress, hard work, effort, sacrifice, burdens over it, walking away, willpower. Yeah, I think that this is God's way of saying, stop coming to Burning Man. It's not necessarily that they want to cancel Burning Man per se. I think that this just the idea is that there should just be less people. Honestly, it's probably not a bad idea. It's gotten too out of hand. We've gotten too greedy. This is going on with a lot of things, but this is a little bit. This is one of those things where if we normalize it, it could get worse. If we just look at it and we just allow it to continue and we don't really regulate it, we don't really do anything about it, we know it's there, we're like, well, it's a religious experience, this is what it's for. Everybody seems to forget about like future generations. We talk about what's happening now and what we want to change and what we want going forward, but we don't talk about what happens like as a result, just over long term. That's what I'm talking about, over long term, right? Somebody had made an interesting comment about how people, like everybody, like all the older people, like Generation X or whatever, we all have tattoos, right? And then they were saying that they feel like the kids now that are growing up, the ones that are maybe of tattoo age, aren't necessarily getting tattoos. Like it's not cool for them, kind of a thing. And so it will go to that extreme to where nobody's getting tattoos, and then I can just totally see it flipping, in another 30 years or 40 years, where nobody has tattoos and everybody wants to get tattoos again. I mean, we see this in the way history repeats itself. We go, to one extreme and then we don't like it, and then we pass, the middle, and then we go to another extreme and then we don't like it. This is our opportunity every time we go from one extreme to the next to make it something that's valuable, that's something in the middle, that's something that's sustainable. And for some reason as humans, we just don't do that. And this is kind of saying that in some way, shape, or form, it's going to bite you in the ass. And I don't think this is just going to bite people who go to Burning Man in the ass. I think this is going to bite people who don't go to Burning Man in the ass. I feel like it already is. Because I heard about that guy that had rented his RV to a guy who, his part of his contract was to not take it to Burning Man because the insurance wouldn't cover it because the RVs get trashed there. Again, why would I take my RV to Burning Man if it's going to get trashed? Like, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, why would and then, of course, why would I take someone else's RV that's going to get trashed? Like, what the hell, right? And so, that has now affected that person. He knows it was at Burning Man because the guy took one air tag off, but there was another air tag on it. So he knew it was at Burning Man. So when he got it back, it was trashed. It was broken. And so it's already affecting him, and he didn't even go. I will say, if I had an RV and I didn't want somebody to take, if I didn't want to take it to Burning Man and I didn't want somebody else to take it to Burning Man, I wouldn't rent it out on that weekend, whatever. I wouldn't rent it out. Don't rent it out. Don't just put air tags on it and say you promised. First of all, we haven't even dug into the character of the people who want to go to Burning Man. But clearly, if you want to take one air tag off and then drive it there anyway, knowing full well that you signed a contract that said you wouldn't take it there, your character's a little off, right? Don't rent it. Sorry, I don't rent my RV during the week of Burning Man. You can have it any other week. The money's not that important, is it? If it is, we'll talk about the damage, right? So, this is Burning Man. The sun came out, right? I just want to read it because I know that the sun is like a good, prosperous card. It says lit. The first thing I thought of was drugs. Alright, hold on. Happiness, success, high vibration, leader, truth, self-love, inspiration, creativity. I think that's what it was supposed to be. When we said in the beginning here, this original idea, I think that's what it was supposed to be. A good example of that would be one of the religious types of uses for it that I heard about was like if people wanted to release things. You guys know I'm big on this, right? If you wanted to release things, you would write it down on a piece of paper, and then you would throw it into the fire when they burn the man, right? And then that would be you energetically releasing these burdens or releasing whatever is going on. This is legit, right? We do this. You know, it could be if everyone showed up to do just that, it could definitely be a spiritual experience with spiritual people. And you could bring your kids because no one would mess with them, because, you know, spiritually, you know, speaking, when people are truly spiritual and not just pretending, they're going to make sure the kids are taken care of, right? I'm sorry, that just seems like too many people taking advantage. This is the High Priestess in reverse. Taking advantage of the people around me because there's so much chaos that no one can really tell what I did. I feel like this is what that turns into now, just from the sheer crowd of it. And then we have this Seven of Wands. I see struggle. Protecting yourself, boundaries, defensive, territorial, hypersexual, angry. I feel like you almost have to be that way at Burning Man to survive. I don't know. I feel like if there's a potential to get slipped drugs, there's a potential to be taken advantage of without your consent. So I feel like, again, like, you know, if you're let's say you have to drive to Burning, you do, but let's say you got to drive a long way to Burning Man, right? When you're at your house, when you're with your friends, are you surrounded by the kind of people who would take care of you if you got too high or you got too drunk? Do you have people around you who would make sure you get home, make sure nobody kidnapped you, or make sure nobody hurt you? Do you have people like that? Some people do, some people don't. If you know you don't, would you go to Burning Man with them? I mean, I think to a certain extent, for some people, it sounds fun to like wander around high in a group of people. And again, like as an empath, not so much. Especially people who may or may not have questionable motives or questionable character or questionable anything. Again, we are in the middle of the desert. We didn't show up to like a monastery and do this, right? So, and then we have the World in reverse. And I think that this is another way of saying, see, I do feel like it's going to get harder every year. It might just get harder every year because it's the desert, right? Like if you lived in the desert, it might just get harder every year to live in the desert. But I feel like this is going to get harder every year because the conditions are just going to get harder every year. Like we said, we're used to the mud, or we know about people are like the mud, you know, and then we have the rain, and then we have the wind. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if there is or was a fire. And then on top of that, I think one year it's going to be like scorpions or something. Like it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous because people aren't getting the message like, hey, you know, there's too many people. I just think there's just too many people. It's not like it's canceled. The idea of it, we love the idea of it. Look at this. Yeah. When we put thought to this originally, the intentions were good. I've heard this about a lot of things. Now we have the Ten of Cups in reverse because we figure, again, this is on our greedy card, right? Yeah. I feel like, well, they're already in the desert. They already expect hardship. So if it's a little bit harder, you know, they won't notice. And that, to a certain extent, I don't think they are. They're complaining about it, you know, and then you have those people that showed up that didn't know it was going to be that hard, right? But I kind of also feel like why do you think that the prices are inflated? I mean, like it's kind of like, it's not like a game, right? It's more like a sport, right? It's not like for amateur campers, right? Not those dust storms, right? So again, when you allow people who may not have any camping skills to do something like that, basically unsupervised, it is, I think, irresponsible and greedy, right? Now, making you sign a waiver doesn't count. if you know, I don't know what that waiver says. Like I said, I don't want to get into this enough to where I read it. But I'd be curious to know if it says anything about asthma or anything that has nothing to do with the thing itself. Any kind of medical emergency they may experience over the past. They don't even have to use their imaginations. They can just list things that have happened in the past, right? When they get you to sign that thing. I think we're signing, these waivers. We're saying, hey, yeah, you might die, but we're also saying that it's going to be fun. Right? So, I think that to a certain extent we're operating under the guise of being responsible. Clearly, if people are dying. And like I said, assaulted, most likely. So, orgy room on top of the 10 swords. Are we doing, like, I don't know, STD tests at this thing? What does this say? Betrayal, completion, darkest hours, internal suffering, painful ending, numb. When we go to the orgy tent, is the only qualification that we have to bring someone with us? What happens if we both have HIV? This is the stuff I think about now. I'm sorry, guys, because you know what? In this day and age, nobody's going to protect you. This is why we talk about it so much. And nobody's going to protect you. You're the one that has to make the smart decisions. You're the one that has to decide what you're not and not going to do, what you are and not going to do, like when you go cave diving. No one, even if they put a sign out and tell you not to do it, that doesn't mean they're not going to let you do it. Right? Just get stuck in that motherfucker. And for some people, there's no guilt because you did it yourself, right? You showed up, you signed the waiver, you did the thing, you agreed to it. Whatever happened to you, happened to you. Like, again, if we were going to do something like this and we were going to have people there, like that many people there, the least we could do is care about it. This King of Swords, I feel like he was upside down. He could have been upright, but I feel like he was upside down. I feel like this is another thing. I feel like this is kind of a thing of, it's almost like, you have the opportunity to say no. I feel like God is like, I have a problem with this. And you have the opportunity to say no. So you know what? I think this is also looking at kind of like, okay, well, you could go to Burning Man. Because I thought about not going, maybe years ago. But, when I first heard about it or whatever. But, now, I would not go. But, if I had, like, if I wanted to do the thing, like I said, where I wanted to write stuff down on a piece of paper and throw it in a giant fire, my question to myself would be, like, can I go and, like, can I maintain my energetic boundaries? Can I go and can I keep to myself? Can I make sure that, my body or my mind doesn't come to harm? Can I make sure that, and honestly, I feel like the air of the experience is that it's not that religious. It's not that spiritual. It's not like I have to go over there and burn a piece of paper for it to be more real. So I don't think that's why people are going anymore. But I will be honest with you, if I did want to let something go, like if I wanted to be spiritual and I wanted to go somewhere and I wanted to be spiritual, the orgy tent doesn't count. It doesn't count. I feel like that's a gaslight. It's like a free love gaslight. And so I have this Ace of Pentacles on top of this Temperance and this Queen of Cups. I feel like if you look at things from a certain perspective, we have the Queen of Cups twice down here in this desert. I think that to me was like the glitter of come, have fun at this oasis, And I kind of feel like this Queen of Cups is more of like a person who does have a choice to make a decision for themselves. And in other words, I feel like the air of the situation from the perspective of Burning Man, let's just call it the actual desert. We're not going to talk about putting words in people's mouths, is that there's a plethora of things to do. What you choose to do is up to you. That's what I'm getting. It's the same as everything else. Again, you don't have to pay all that money or subject your lungs to dust or anything like that to have that experience. Burning Man is not special in that respect. Let's go over the last row. So we got that 7 of Swords, right? And Burning Man's response to that is a 5 of Swords in reverse. What's this? The 5 of Wands is the energy in the middle. Yeah, this looks like an argument to me. This is like God going, well, you're hurting people. And other people, this down here, we're kind of like, well, no, because the 5 of Swords upright is kind of like, trying to cheat or like steal, the swords before the battle kind of thing. And it's like it's upside down, but it's kind of like, no, they're giving it to us. We're providing a service. And this is saying, well, we're just going to agree to disagree. And I'm picking up greed again. But see, God knows that that's greed. Like, you don't see through that. Like, even if that was one person's opinion and they ran everything, when they die, they can see the greed in that. They could probably see it now. But even if they couldn't see it now, they would definitely see it later on. Like, it's greed. It's the 9 of Pentacles. It's the potential of it. But like I said, a lot of times when we find out that something works, we'll pervert it. It's like the Olympics. Eight of Swords in reverse. You don't have any control over it in that situation. Oh my God, I just got signing your life away. And the Strength upside down. The odds are against you in that environment. I did not expect this at all, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to go off on morality. It touched on it, but again, there's no judgment there, so it didn't hammer in on anybody or do anything like that. But I do feel like the overlying message here is that if we're going to allow this, we're greedy. If we're going to allow this, we're just greedy. And you can be the judge to determine what this is. Until we meet again.